Off we go. So, thank you so much for being here today. It's really, really great to have you here. I'm really excited. I have to say, originally, this meeting was set up for the Business Network, and it was kindly that Devon and Cornwall Police forwarded my email to a lot of people, and I had so many people being interested in this webinar that I said, okay, fine, I will let them join you today. So this is why we had quite a lot of people on the list for today. So what are we doing today? It's about working from home, and it's about eating as well as you can when you work from home. Today, I will share with you the best nutrients which keep your brain productive and happy for better mental health and physical well-being. I give you some ideas how you can adopt a meal structure that supports your brain and your energy levels. And of course, I'll share some meal ideas at the end. Questions, Q&A, as we said, going to do afterwards as well, no problem. Many of you know me already, so I'll keep the introduction rather short. My name is Carola Becker. I'm a nutritionist and fitness instructor. I'm here to help people feel better, think better, and live healthier without preaching, without food extremism. Basically, I aim to make science work for you. Besides working with private clients and help them making game-changing shifts to their life, I work with companies delivering webinars like this one, and oh, there's somebody else. Webinars like this one, and I support teams and entire workforces to eat well, focus better, and have more energy during their busy days at work. Last but not least, I create online courses around specific nutrition topics so you can dive deep and learn at your own pace. It's clear that we all have our own taste, foods we don't want to, or we just simply can't eat. But nutrition is inclusive, and that's what I like so much about it. When I recommend making fruit and vegetables the stars of the show, I don't do that to annoy the meat eaters, but because the best source of a particular nutrient may be a vegetable. And vice versa, if I recommend animal products, this is not to annoy the vegetarians or the vegans amongst you. It's just sometimes certain nutrients are better absorbed when they come from an animal source. We come to a few later in the talk where you can see the difference. So enough about me. Today, it's all about your brain and how you can adjust your eating to support your well-being. Last year, I conducted a worldwide study about the impact of food and lifestyle on mental well-being and brain performance. The online course I have created is based on the findings of this study and will take you step by step through the program my participants went through and make massive improvements. Today, I will share some of the best nutrients and how you can incorporate them into your busy life. It's clear that your brain got a lot of jobs to do. It helps you walking and thinking and talking and breathing. It helps you make decisions, remember things, concentrating, and creating memories and emotions, which is obviously directly linked to your mental capacity and your mental well-being. But the main reason we talk about the brain today is because your way of working, eating, and exercising may have changed dramatically over the last 12 months. In the past, you probably have worked in an office, got away from your desk to chat with a colleague, had a commute to and from work, maybe even regular working hours, or a lunch break, or maybe a gym session after work. And now this structure may have been disturbed. There's no longer a commute, which may lead to changes in bedtimes. Many people report longer working hours and no real end to their working day. Some of my clients reported that they have no real meal times anymore. You sit 3 meters away from your fridge, and it seems there's a lot of snacking going on recently. And I hear a lot about eating whilst working. So taking food to your desk, which is quite bad when you're working in an office, but when you're working at home, it's even worse. So we've got a lot to cover today. Is there anything you do actively to support your brain and your mental well-being? Maybe you're still trying to be as active as possible despite the weather today. Getting outside into nature, try and socialize, even if it is on phone or on Zoom. But what about the things you do anyway? Eating, for example. Making a few changes to your meals will make a massive difference. I know it's tempting to skip breakfast, snack all day rather than taking a proper break, because it just seems to be so easy. Or let's just grab something and just munch whilst we'll continue being on calls or working along. But there are a few things you may want to consider. Generally, there's nothing wrong with snacks. But if you snack all day, chances are that you simply lose track about what and how much you're actually eating. Even if your snacks are healthy, there's still a risk of simply eating too much. Because when you're snacking and when there is a pack of something in front of you, it's just mindless. It's happening on a regular basis. You just grab something and munch along the day. Snacks are sometimes, or most of the time, I should say, not particularly nutritionally balanced unless you plan them properly. Taking time to eat a proper meal does not only fill you up, but it gives your brain and your body a rest from your screen. Studies show that it may seem that you save time by eating whilst working, but if you actually step away from your desk, you will work better and more efficiently afterwards. There's quite an interesting study about that. And to be fair, we all realize that once we're sitting at our desk for hours on end, that at some point the brain is just zooming out in this sense of the meaning. Let's just talk about the most important nutrients for your brain, which you can literally add to any of your meals. Here's an overview. The first one is antioxidants. Inflammation and stress can lead to a higher risk of memory loss in the future and even Alzheimer's. If you are exposed to too much pressure, your brain ages quicker due to a reduced communication between your brain cells. The best way to work against this and to help your brain is consuming antioxidants. You may have heard about them. Intensely colored foods like wild blueberries, green leafy vegetables like spinach, chard, kale, all of them. Tomatoes, and for example, things like Brazil nuts are very high in antioxidants, but also kidney beans, cinnamon, and ginger, because ginger has anti-inflammatory purposes and is really helpful to keep this inflammation in your brain low. The second one on my list is magnesium. Magnesium is one of the most important minerals for optimal health. Magnesium relaxes your muscles and your brain for more calm, better mood, and better sleep. The foods which are high in magnesium are almonds, cashew nuts, and again, Brazil nuts. Plus the green leafy vegetables, super high in magnesium, and they can really make a big difference. So for the snackers amongst you, if you snack on a handful of almonds or a handful of cashew nuts, you will get easily your daily recommendation of magnesium into your body. As an example, if you want to have a great breakfast with a magnesium boost to really set you up for the day, banana, strawberries, plain cottage cheese, and chopped almonds and Brazil nuts. The combination of all of them is super cool and gets you really set up for the day with your magnesium. The next one on that list is omega-3. Omega-3 is one of my favorite fatty acids. It's one of those nutrients which is crucial for the development and function of the central nervous system. A lack has been linked to low mood, but most importantly, cognitive decline and poor comprehension. So when you're really thinking, oh, I'm really feeling quite foggy today, I can't concentrate. I have this, I don't know, 16-page document ahead of me and I can't really concentrate. It could be that you're lacking omega-3. If you like fish, salmon, tuna, mackerel, all the fatty ones are your best friends. Omega-3 is one of those which is absorbed better when it comes from an animal source. But you can choose walnuts, chia seeds, or ground flax seeds as acceptable sources. If you prefer flax seeds, make sure that you buy ground ones, because the outer shell of flax seeds is really hard and your digestive system can't really get to all the nutrients inside of the flaxseed. So the ground flax seeds are better. Keep them in the fridge, because ground flax seeds, because of their high fat content, get rancid if you just simply keep them at room temperature. Chia seeds as well as flax seeds are pretty tasteless, which means you can sprinkle them over literally anything. Porridge, soups, salads, you name it, it doesn't really matter because they don't add anything to it. Careful with the chia seeds. If you have attended any of my calls, any of my talks before, you know that I always have this slight disclaimer about chia seeds, because these little buggers sit between your teeth and you may want to brush your teeth afterwards because you're really busy all day fiddling chia seeds out of your teeth. Next one on my list, which is a great mineral, it's called zinc. Zinc is involved in better sleep, reduced anxiety, and it regulates the communication between your brain cells, specifically the ones that form memories. Isn't that awesome? I think, just think about it. You can help your brain cells communicating better and make nicer memories just by eating some zinc, which is brilliant. Sorry, I'm getting carried away here. You may realize that I like my job. It's just one of those things. I think it's just fantastic. You can find zinc. Sorry, I'm calming down now. You can find zinc in red meat and poultry. Oysters, crab, and lobster are very good sources too. But please be aware that crab and lobster are really high in sodium, which you may want to be careful with if you're looking after your heart health. But if you prefer to consume zinc, lean red meat and poultry are really good sources too. If you prefer a plant source, go for whole grains, pumpkin seeds, and again, cashew nuts, really high in zinc. Zinc is another one on the list, which is better absorbed if it comes from an animal source. As a side note, for the vegetarians and vegans amongst you, zinc and iron are currently the trace minerals of greatest concern when considering the nutritional value of a vegan or vegetarian diet. Which means, basically translated into plain English, so even I understand it, that you may want to have a supplement of zinc and iron. The reason, especially for the iron, is because we have two different types of iron. The iron which is in meat and in animal sources is called heme iron and is absorbed in an instant by your body, whilst the iron which comes from a vegetable is called the so-called non-heme iron. And non-heme iron needs vitamin C to get absorbed from your body, which means you should have the non-heme iron together with the vitamin C to have all the help you can get for your body to absorb it properly. So just as an example, if you have, I don't know, the pumpkin seeds and the cashew nuts, which is obviously a nice snack, but if you have it together with an orange or with a kiwi fruit, which is super high in vitamin C, you get the iron from Sorry, what do I say? This is zinc. Sorry, ignore me. Iron is in green leafy vegetables. So when we're looking at chard, spinach, and kale, you may want to add something like a red pepper, which is again very high in vitamin C. So you get the iron out of the green leafy vegetables. Okay. Haha. Right. The next one is a little bit tricky because so far it was fairly easy because I have only mentioned the things you can add to your diet. And now we're getting to the point you may not want to hear. Does anybody have an idea what I would ask you to reduce in your diet? You can either put it in the chat box or quickly raise your hand if you have. Judy, come on, unmute yourself and tell me what am I going to talk about in a second. Sorry?
Sugar.
Good, that was the first one. What's the second one?
Fat.
No.
Oh.
No.
Okay.
No? Okay, the second one would be alcohol. Oh God, I know. Is anybody, are you still all here? Okay, great. Nobody has left the building yet. Yes, sadly, the two I'm referring now to is sugar and alcohol. If you do one thing, please reduce the amount of alcohol you're drinking. If somebody tells you that a glass of red wine is good for your heart, please punch them in the face and send them my way. It is a myth. Red wine, especially when we're talking about a glass of red wine, because, well, glasses can be something between this and this. It's just not true. To get the benefits from a glass of red wine, which needs to be for your heart, you need a bottle of red wine, and everybody knows that a bottle of red wine is not good for you. So sadly, alcohol is a nerve poison, which is directly linked to poor mental health, reduced lateral thinking. And this is what bothers me most, is that we're thinking, oh yeah, it's Friday night, we can just relax a little bit, but our brain will suffer. And well, we all know how much impacts decision making when we're drinking too much. And I certainly don't sit here with my halo. It's not that I'm not drinking any alcohol. I just know exactly what effect it has on me, sadly. If you can reduce or stop consuming it, you will be thinking clearer and you will be working better. Whew. So that is one out of the way. And when we're talking about the second one, talking about sugar, it's an interesting fact because your brain runs on glucose, which is basically sugar. But before you drop everything and wander to the biscuit tin, let me just quickly explain. Your brain benefits from a constant flow of energy. And this energy comes from slow releasing carbohydrates like vegetables, fruit, pulses, and whole grains. If we're looking at, because those slow releasing carbohydrates will be turned into sugar, but very slowly, hence the name slow releasing. Sugar and other fast releasing carbohydrates will increase your energy levels very quickly. So just as an example, you're running a marathon and you know that you have another 2 miles to go and you need this massive boost of energy and you need it right now, then you need sugar because it is in your blood system in an instant. But because your energy levels will then rise very quickly, they will drop very quickly. And this will play havoc with your overall energy levels. And those are the energy levels of your body, as well as the energy levels of your brain. So if you're reducing your sugar intake, you will keep your energy levels on a more even level, especially when you at the same time increase carbohydrates, which are slow releasing. So increasing the amount of vegetables you're eating, increase the amount of fruit you're eating. because even though fruit is relatively high in sugar, depending on which fruit you're eating, fruit always comes in this beautiful package of vitamins and nutrients and fiber, especially fiber. We're looking at things like smoothies and fruit juice, where the fiber is basically destroyed. And drinking a glass of fruit juice will have a massive impact on your blood sugar levels in exactly the same way like drinking a can of Coke or any other fizzy drink. So drinking fruit juice is not particularly helpful if you would like to support your brain energy. It's more about keeping your energy levels even. And especially when we're talking about this 3 o'clock slump, that is only because you're having too much sugar in your system. No matter where it comes from, it doesn't need to be sugar in itself. It can be a piece of white bread or a biscuit, or it can be even a bowl of pasta, because it's made from wheat, and wheat taken out all of the nutrients and vitamins from the whole grain has a big impact on your blood sugar levels. Let's look at some meal ideas. If you think you would benefit from a few of these changes which I just met, let's have a look how you can include the nutrients we have been gone through over the last half hour. Let's start with breakfast. I'm not a fan of eating when you're not hungry. Probably about 60% of my clients don't eat breakfast. And I'm perfectly happy with that. But I always say that if you don't eat breakfast first thing, you may want to be prepared that you will be hungry at one point before lunch. And that's normally the time of day when you're super busy and you're running around and you're doing stuff and you haven't got anything prepared for breakfast. So your brain needs a good balance between carbohydrates, proteins, and fat. Most of the usual breakfast options we tend to eat are too high in refined carbohydrates and too high in fat at the same time. So we're looking at cereals, we're looking at toast, we're looking at muffins and all of that stuff. If you want to eat something quick, go for a porridge or something like a granola, which is low in sugar. There are very nice versions available in the meantime. You can add some nuts and seeds because they both contain protein as well as fat, and they keep you fuller for longer. If you have a bit more time, make yourself some scrambled or poached eggs. You can add some spinach or tomatoes to add variety, and that will really fill you up for the morning. For lunch, you can make your whole meal sandwich super healthy if you add a filling made from sunflower seeds and chickpeas. Just mash up the chickpeas with a fork, add some sunflower seeds, a couple of spices, whichever you like. You can have it as plain or as spicy as if you like. A few green leaves, few slices of cucumber. Awesome sandwich. I'm not saying a sandwich is generally bad. It's mostly about the choice of bread we're using. And if we're using a good wholemeal bread, you can make wonderful, healthy fillings for those. If you have any leftover vegetables from last night, just add them to a substantial salad made with a few spoonfuls of lentils from a tin, fresh leaves, and again, nuts and seeds. I always tend to add nuts and seeds to pretty much everything because it's just so nice and filling. You can make your own soup from those leftover vegetables, or fill a wholemeal pita with roasted peppers, hummus, and some fresh cucumber. There's loads of ideas and loads of varieties available. Whatever you can find in your fridge, I'm sure you can just quickly rustle up a nice lunch. If you'd like to add some tinned tuna or some shredded chicken, if you would like to add some meat or fish with it. Snacks can be super healthy too. Rather than reaching for a sugary snack, try making this an opportunity to add more protein to your day, because the protein will keep you fuller for longer and it reduces the speed in which the carbohydrates will be released into your bloodstream. Ideas are a handful of almonds or any other nuts together with some natural yogurt, or maybe just an apple with some peanut butter. If you prefer something a bit sweeter, make your own energy balls. I'll send you the recipe later together with a recording, because it's literally, I think it's 5 ingredients. They take 10 minutes to make and they last a week in the fridge. No baking, nothing required. And it just gives you this little bit of sweetness and enough substance to keep you going through the afternoon with your cup of tea. And they're ready to eat. You can take them as they are out of the fridge. And you don't need more than 2 or 3 because they are really filling. For dinner, salmon fish cakes, chicken with herbs, beetroot burgers, frittata, anything that is high in those vitamins and nutrients we have been discussing earlier. And especially when it comes to the timings of your dinner. Depending on what you're doing and depending on your sleeping pattern, if I always say keep with the structure. Either if you eat early, you can have something which is a little bit more difficult to digest, things like a steak or anything which is higher in fat. If you have a vegetarian meal which comes with a lot of cheese, that's probably something you may want to eat a little bit earlier, because it takes longer for red meat or for something with a higher fat content to be digested. If you eat late, for whatever reason, if you don't fancy eating early or if you have something to do, I would say eat lighter, depending on how late you eat in the evening, to give your body enough time to digest the food before you go to bed. Generally, it's a good idea to have your dinner between 2 and 3 hours before you go to bed, just simply to give your body a little bit of time, especially when you're not sleeping well. So, as a little recap, more antioxidants, more berries, more green leafy vegetables, more omega-3, fatty fish, chia seeds, walnuts, more magnesium and zinc, poultry, almonds, all other nuts and seeds, less alcohol and sugar, more protein, to give your body the substance and your brain enough to work with during the day. There are lots more strategies you can follow to help your mental fitness and keep your brain healthy, full of energy. If you have the time, I will be running the second webinar of this series on Monday afternoon at 4 o'clock, where we talk about physical and mental activities to support your brain, because there's a difference between, it might be interesting for you, Duncan, because we're looking at aerobic and anaerobic exercises, which obviously is something you're really dealing with. And for everybody else, to be fair, if you would like to incorporate exercises into your day and you want to do the ones which are really supporting your brain, the Monday is the day for you where we can talk about that. And again, same like today, if you don't have the chance to be there, sign up anyway, and I will send you the recording afterwards. I quickly get the details in the chat box, and then I can open the floor for questions. Hang on one second. Where is my chat box? Here. That is for Monday. Okay, that was me, 1604. Is there anything? Please feel free to unmute yourself and just simply ask me if there's anything I can help you with. Judy, come on, you're first.
Thank you so much for that. That was really, really good. Really good.
Thank you.
I've given up sugar for Lent. I'm on day 3. And you said at one stage, sugar is something about it is a nerve something.
No, that was
Is
alcohol.
that alcohol?
Alcohol
Sorry.
is a nerve poison. Yes,
A nerve
sadly.
poison.
Yeah. Sugar is thankfully not a nerve poison. God, that would be horrible. But obviously, we are quite used to eating relatively high amounts of sugar, all of us. I mean, no matter if you have a sweet tooth or not. Giving up sugar for Lent, good one. I mean, that is really, really tricky. I'm not sure if I could do that, to be honest. But for everybody else who is not going that far, reducing your sugar intake, simply just to give your blood sugar levels a rest, would be a really good idea. Well done, Judy, for doing that.
Can I ask another quick one? Sorry, I'm
Sure.
trying to do Slimming World, which is to try and lose some weight. And when I hear you talk about nuts, which I love, Slimming World is sort of no, that's very high fat. So how do I get my head around that, Clara?
Yeah, I think that's probably a longer discussion we should have.
Sorry.
Duncan, stop laughing at me.
I just know what you're thinking.
Yes, I think the problem is that the discussion around fat is one which is in the meantime no longer as relevant as it was 20 years ago, because the amount of fat we have in our diet obviously it can be enough, because as far as I know, and I'm not particularly familiar with the approach of Slimming World, but I guess they are looking at the calories. They're not necessarily looking at the fat content, but because fat is relatively high in calories and they're trying to reduce your calorie intake, which of course will help you lose weight. But the question is, where does that calorie come from? Because if we're looking at 500 calories of broccoli and we're looking at 500 calories of chocolate, that is a completely different ball game. So for me, yes, of course, nuts are relatively high in calories, but a handful of nuts will fill you up. You do not need anything for about an hour or two, or at least 3 hours, depending on which nuts you're eating. And that is more important for me, plus all the nutrients the nuts will deliver into your body. Only because you take the calories out of your diet doesn't necessarily mean you take the good stuff out of your diet. So I would question this approach. I'm trying to be really British here.
No. I thought you might. No. Thank you so much.
More than happy to chat about that.
Thanks, Thank
between us. Richard, you had a question.
Yeah, I had a couple of brief ones, if you don't mind. One is so I'm working from home. My wife's working from home, but my kids are working from home as well. And I just wondered whether there was anything in what you said that would be any different for an 8 and a 12-year-old than for the rest of us.
Oh, excellent question. That's probably one where I have to be careful with, because I'm really not an expert on children's nutrition.
Sure.
I simply don't know. I need to refer you to a colleague of mine, because I just don't know.
I'd be really interested just to find out. No, that's fine. I don't either, but we all eat the same, and I don't know whether there's a difference there or what.
I think the one thing I know is, whilst by the time we are adults, the amount of dairy we can tolerate or we need to have in our body is not as much as when we are children. So if you're thinking of raising your child as a vegetarian or even vegan, then that is definitely where I need to flag the alarm, because that is something where we need to talk, because children need dairy in their diet. But for an adult, that's a different story. But with everything else, sorry, not me.
No worries. The other one then was just you talked specifically about nutrients, and that's great. I find that I think I eat quite well. My diet I think is quite balanced, but I think I eat too much when I sit down to eat. So it's a portion size question, really. Like how much is the right amount for a meal? Is there any kind of guidance you can give on that?
Yes, sure. So obviously again, I'm very broad here. This is different for every single person, and it depends on your activity levels, and it depends on your general metabolism. But I really like the idea of hand portion sizes. So when you look at your own hand, the palm of your hand is the amount of meat. 2 handful would be vegetables. 1 handful for fruit, for oats, for whole grains, one finger for cheese, 1 fingertip for oil and butter and things like Nutella. What a shame. I'm sorry.
I think I may be overdoing those.
Again, the palm of your hands for scrambled eggs, maybe something like that. So generally, everything that fills one cup full in your hand, that's probably enough. So portion sizes, especially if you're struggling to sleep, it might be an idea to make your lunch your main meal of the day if you can, and eat slightly less in the evenings. It doesn't have any impact on your weight, because it's about how much you're eating during the day, which impacts your weight. But in terms of your sleep, that might be one that helps you a little bit.
Okay, thank you, Carole. I really enjoyed this. It's been fascinating. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Amy, you got your hand up. Is that because you wanted to ask something? Amy, you are unmuted. No? Okay. Ruth, you got your hand up. Would you like to ask a question?
Hi. Yeah.
Oh, Amy, hello.
Oh, no, that's Ruth.
No, that's Ruth. Okay, yeah. Sorry. No, go ahead.
That's okay. So my question is to do with organic food. So obviously there is a lot of hype around the goodness that organic food can give you. And I try and buy, especially vegetables, organic where I can. In your experience and research, is there actual proven benefits from eating organic vegetables over normal veg that have pesticides on?
It depends. What are you referring to? Obviously, when we're looking at the amount of pesticides and what they may or may not do to our body, research is still out there. If it depending on which pesticide we're looking at. In terms of the nutrients, it's rarely any different. Obviously, you get less or no pesticides at all, which is a wonderful thing. But in terms of the amount of vitamin C or the amount of zinc or the amount of any nutrient, this doesn't make any difference, because the amount of nutrients comes from the soil, and depending on how the soil is being treated the years before, this doesn't necessarily mean only for that particular crop, just the years before, that impacts the amount of nutrients which is in there. So generally, I'm with you on buying organic when possible and when it's affordable. It depends probably where you are and if you have a farm shop around the corner from where you live. I'm perfectly with you. There's one thing I need to point out. If you would like to buy, as an example, organic milk alternatives. So as an example, organic soya milk for your coffee, in comparison to normal soya milk for your coffee, by law, manufacturers are not allowed to add anything to organic plant milk. So if you buy organic plant milk, you literally get soya beans and water, and that's it. If you buy normal soya milk, you will have added vitamins like and minerals like calcium, like B12, like magnesium, which they're all, and vitamin D, which they're always adding to the soya milk. So if you're only talking about fruit and vegetables and meat, maybe even, that's fine. But in terms of organic dairy alternatives, I would be careful because there's nothing else in there.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Ruth. Kirsty, you're still on mute. Yeah, brilliant.
Just because you were talking about dairy then, I'm quite interested. I mean, quite often in the mornings I'll have yogurt and granola and fruit. But I always go with dairy for a full fat option because in my head I think that's probably better. But I mean, there's no real, I haven't read about it. I've got no real evidence for that. I just think that sounds like it's probably healthier because it's more natural. Is there anything in there? Is there anything in terms of giving you more energy during the course of the day or anything like that? Or am I taking on extra calories just for no good reason?
So generally, I'm a massive fan of full fat dairy, simply because it just tastes so much nicer than all the other semi-skimmed and skimmed stuff. Obviously, again, I need to be careful. If anybody listens to it with a heart problem, you should be careful because of the fat in dairy is saturated fat, which is not particularly great if you have a heart problem. As long as you are healthy and everything's fine with you, there's no particular reason why you shouldn't have full fat dairy. Especially when you keep the amount of dairy you're eating to a, let's just say you have a portion of yogurt with your breakfast, and maybe you have full fat dairy in your tea or coffee during the day, and that's it. If you drink 3 liters of milk every day and have 3 pots of yogurt, then it was like, oh, hang on, we need to check your intake of saturated fat. But generally, if this is your main intake, there's no problem with that from my perspective. If you have yogurt, it's actually very good for your gut bacteria as well. So especially if it's it doesn't have anything to do with the fat content. Yogurt generally is good for your gut bacteria. So that's one to bear in mind. So it's actually really good to have it with your breakfast.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Ruth, you got your hand up, or have you still got your hand up?
No, I just popped it up again, just a follow-up
Okay.
question from what you've said about yogurt being good for your gut. I recently switched to a kefir yogurt. Again, is that hype or is that actually better for your gut than normal?
No, kefir is one of those fermented foods, which is particularly good for your gut bacteria. It actually increases the number of gut bacteria you have in your gut. Kefir and yogurt are the most, let's just say, normal foods in terms of fermented foods, because the other fermented foods are things like very exotic, like kimchi and fermented tea, which is kombucha, tempeh, and sauerkraut, because I'm German, I have to mention the sauerkraut. If you would like to help your gut bacteria with fermented foods, you have to look for unpasteurized, because the so-called probiotics, which are in those foods and drinks, very, very unstable to heat and very, very receptive, and they will literally die immediately when they're getting warmed up. So if you have pasteurized foods which help your gut bacteria, there's not much left. But with kefir and with yogurt, you're really on the good side. It's not one of those hypes. It's really, really a good one. If you like it, go for it.
Great.
Okay, Richard.
Yeah, just a very quick follow-up on that in regard to if you happen to be vegan and you wanted to boost your gut bacteria, so effectively kefir and yogurt aren't accessible to you.
Of course, no. You should you should probably go for the unpasteurized foods like the sauerkraut, the kombucha, the tempeh, and all of those things. And especially when you buy these unpasteurized foods, you will get them in fairly small packages only, because they don't last long, because the pasteurization increases the shelf life. But it's definitely a good one. But if you would like to support your gut bacteria, it's one of the few situations where I really recommend a supplement. I can there are supplements which don't need refrigeration. Those are the ones to go for, because again, if you buy one at Holland & Barrett's, you don't know if they have just interrupted the cooling chain between the production and by the time it gets to you. A probiotic supplement is a good idea. I'll talk a lot about probiotics in my online course. There's lots to say about the foods, the probiotics, as well as the prebiotics, because those are the ones that keep your gut bacteria happy. We need to feed them afterwards. So you have to top them up first, and then you have to feed them so they're happy. Like all of us, we need food to be happy. Okay, anything else, or shall I let you go into your weekend or back to your work, depending on what you're doing? Okay, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really, really glad that you have been with me. Thank you, Sally. Lovely to see you all. If you would like me to, if you'd like to join me on Monday, please feel free to sign up, and I will send you the recording, and I'll send everybody obviously the recording plus the recipe for the energy balls, because they're really nice. Have a lovely weekend. I'll see you all later. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye now.